Hello.
Hello, Erica Fowler.
Brian McNabb, how are you?
Good, it's nice to meet you.
Let's take a seat. How you doing today, Erica?
I'm doing wonderful, and yourself?
Not too shabby. Well, you're here today to interview for a position, so why don't you start by telling me about yourself?
Well, I was born in Colorado, but my family moved out here when I was about 7 years old, so I've been in Virginia for that long now. Grew up in a small farming community out in Fauquier County. When I graduated high school, I originally went to West Virginia University so that I could become a medical examiner, but we had some family stuff going on, and I ended up having to move back home and help take care of the family. Eventually got into banking, just sort of as a side job, but really enjoyed it. It was a great career for me, and started out as a teller, worked my way up, went over into the operations side of things, eventually got into security and fraud, which is where I am currently. At that point, I decided I needed to change my education a little bit more and increase that. So what I ended up doing was going back to school and getting my Bachelor's of Science degree in criminal justice, which has really helped out with my career. Other than working, which I actually really enjoy doing, I like to cook, garden, do some arts and crafts, things like that.
Where do you currently work at right now?
It's United Bank.
Okay. Can you name some of your strengths and weaknesses for me?
Well, definitely my biggest strength would be communication, verbal, written, nonverbal. I have excellent writing skills. I do a lot of teaching at my current position, so I have the verbal communication. I'm also a very good listener, so I can communicate well with people that way. Second, as far as strengths go, would definitely be a detail orientation. I'm very detail oriented. Always pay attention to little details, which is very important in my job. As far as a weakness goes, I'd actually have to say that paying attention to details can be a weakness for me too. Sometimes I tend to get wrapped up in the little tiny things instead of taking a step back and looking at the big picture, and I have to remind myself to do that.
Okay. How have you tried to improve that?
Well, basically, I tend to get focused on things, which is good in one way because I have to be focused on the details. But what I tend to do is I tell myself, okay, I've seen all the details, I know where all those details are and what they are about. Now I need to step back and see how all of those little details fit into the bigger picture. So it's just more of a, just constantly telling myself, look at the big picture.
Okay. What kind of people do you find difficult to work with?
You know, I get along with just about everybody that I've ever worked with, but I'd say the most difficult people are the ones that are very closed-minded. I happen to be a very open-minded person. I think that that really helps the workflow of everything. It allows you to communicate better. People that are closed-minded tend to not communicate very well. They don't want to hear things. They don't want to even really give you a reason why for things because they don't feel like they have to explain themselves. I think that those types of people tend to create a lot of friction in a work environment, and they're just really difficult to sort of overcome that barrier of communication, but it's something that I'm still very good at doing.
Okay. What do you like most about the banking and fraud industry?
Oh, the fact that it's always changing. It's always different. Every day is different. I come into work, I have a schedule of things that I kind of need to get done, but it's always different. Every case is different. It's always a challenge. That's what I really like about it.
Okay. What do you think your most significant accomplishment is?
Well, actually, I brought my portfolio, and I'd like to show you a couple of things in there. I'd say my most significant accomplishment was at United Bank. I developed our security and fraud department from the ground up with absolutely no mentorship, no help, no training. Nobody knew what to do with that department, so I kind of had to start it all up on my own. First thing I have in here that I'd like to share with you is a letter of recommendation from my current supervisor. And she talks about some of the different things that I've done for the company, but she also brings up the fact that I developed this department from the ground up with absolutely no help, and that was a big deal for me. While I was developing the department, in fact, the very first thing I had to do was to write my own job description, because we didn't have them. I had to write them for myself as well as for my staff members, which was interesting. I had to do things like develop our department and our duties, what we were responsible for. This is an example of some of the procedures that I've written for the department. Every procedure that we have, I've written it. Also, while I was developing this department, I of course had to get more training because the bank didn't have any training. We had nobody that was doing anything in this department, this area. So I went outside of the box and started getting training in different areas. I have a couple of different certificates in here for different training classes that I went to. Most of the ones that I did were outside of the bank. They were seminars that were held by different companies, things like that. So I was able to go and get a lot of the information that I needed in order to develop that department, including especially the security management training, which was a great boon to me. It taught me a lot of different things and helped me to really develop the department better. And part of that accomplishment too was that while I was working full-time and developing this department, I was also going to school full-time at ITT Tech. And I managed to make the honor roll, the highest honor roll, and maintain a GPA of 4.0 the entire time I was there, which I thought was a very significant accomplishment. And on top of that, I was inducted into the National Technical Honor Society, which was an honor for me. I also received an honor from our criminal justice department chair for my work with the criminal justice department. And as you can see, I got the highest honor roll every quarter that I was in ITT Tech. Which I think speaks volumes that, you know, I could maintain a full-time job, go to school full-time, and get the best grades possible.
Okay.
The other thing that I was really proud of was the fact that I was able to maintain highest honors and a GPA of 4.0 the entire time that I was at ITT and working full-time for the bank. I think that, you know, it would have been easy for me to just do the bare minimums and get, you know, the bare minimum grades and get the degree. But I wouldn't have been happy with that. I'm not happy with doing just the bare minimum. I've always been considered sort of an overachiever in life. And this was another thing that I had to tackle and I had to really strive at and I had to work hard for. And I was really proud of the fact that I was able to do that. And it's something that dedication, I think it's part of my life. It's just who I am. And it's going to follow through with whatever job that I take. I'm not going to do just enough to get by. I'm going to always strive to do the absolute best possible.
What are your career goals with this company and in the future?
Well, first career goal would be to definitely find another position that's similar to what I already have, that in a company that I feel is going to continue on in the future. Secondly, I'd like to get my fraud examiner certification through the International Fraud Association. That is a great association. They do a lot of really wonderful things and they really teach you everything you need to know about being a certified fraud examiner. Currently, in my company, I do a lot of testimony for the bank when we have court cases and things like that, but I can't be an expert witness or a certified fraud witness because I don't have that certification. So that's something that I'm definitely looking into and trying to get that. Other than that, I want a company that I can retire from. A company that I fit in well with, that I'm going to be here for years, and that, you know, I can retire from when that time comes.
Okay. Do you prefer to work in a team or alone?
It really depends more on the type of project that it is. If it's something that involves a lot of brainstorming or you need a lot of ideas, teamwork is definitely the way to go, because the more people you have, the more ideas you're going to come up with, the more diverse those ideas are going to be. However, there's some things like in my current job where I'm doing a lot of reports and a lot of digging in and doing research on accounts. That requires more of a lone type of effort, a solo effort, just because if you have too many people, then you start to have conflicting information coming through. You have duplication of work, which is just redundant and unnecessary. So it just sort of depends. Either way, I'm perfectly capable of doing either.
Now, your current job at United, why do you want to change jobs and work for us?
To be honest, I really didn't want to change jobs, but unfortunately, my company has decided to move our operations center up into New York. And my family and my husband's family all live in this area, and we really enjoy this area. So rather than just pick up and move, we decided we'd look around and see if there was other options available, something similar to what I already had.
Okay. Do you think you're good at problem solving?
Oh, definitely. I love puzzles. Problems are just big puzzles.
Can you give me a good example of that?
Well, just recently we had a problem of, we do subpoenas in my department, which are documentation for court cases. We were having a serious problem with that. It was taking too long to get the information. We were spending way too much money on things like paper, toner. Our printer kept dying because we were using it so much, printing off all of these documents. We were spending gobs of money on things like shipping and even storage to store the material. So what I had to do is I had to sit down and think about a way to attack this problem. First thing I did was to call all of these different people, these different agencies that we provide the information for, to ask them if they would accept these kinds of documents on a digital format rather than paper format. Most of them were perfectly happy with that idea. The ones that weren't, I convinced them that it was a better way to go. Then I went back to my technical services people and discussed with them the different ways that we could accomplish that. Our current company policy dictated that we could not take any information and put it on removable media, which was totally understandable, but for this particular instance, it made more sense for us to change that policy. So we changed that policy so we could go ahead and put the subpoena documents on digital format. Then our tech services department and I worked together to accomplish that goal. We had to get a couple of new software things installed. We had to get some new equipment. But all in all, it has saved us so much money and so much time. It was so worth the effort.
Okay. Why are you interested in this company?
Well, I've done quite a bit of research on you guys, actually, and I have a couple of friends that work in this company, and they love this place. They think that this place is just the best thing since sliced bread. And I've done a lot of research. I was really impressed that your bank did not take any of the TARP money from the government. I know United Bank didn't either, and that speaks a lot to me because in these trying financial times, there's a lot of banks out there that haven't been doing very well. And I don't want to go work for a company that has had to get assistance from the government because you just don't know what's going to happen with that TARP money. So that's definitely a big thing, is that you guys are a strong company. You're about the same size as United Bank, which makes me pretty comfortable. You're not too big, not too small. You're going to be here for a while.
Okay. Now, I've already seen your portfolio, but what other kind of work-related experience do you have that would serve you well?
Well, other than banking, before that I've worked a lot of customer service. I also, while I was working customer service, I had to do a lot of investigations. In one of the companies that I worked for, I was actually pulled in. I started out as a cashier there, and I was pulled into the HR department to help investigate employee theft, which kind of got me started into the whole security and fraud arena. And when I got into banking, I really strove to get back into that area because it was very interesting for me. So I've got a lot of customer service experience, even though in my job now, I don't really deal with too many customers, and the ones that I do deal with are usually your crooks, so they're not the general customer type. But as far as other customers, I deal a lot with police, a lot with lawyers, a lot with other law enforcement agencies, and I feel that they're just as much of a customer as an account holder is, so you have to use those same skills. The other reason that I went to ITT Tech and chose that over another school was that they had some really good labs there. That was a lot of hands-on. We learned directly from law enforcement people. We learned from people who'd been in that industry and in that area for a long time. You had a lot of professionals in that environment. So we got a lot of that training and that hands-on experience. The lab work was really helpful for a lot of the things that I did back at work. In addition to that, our senior thesis, in order to get our degree, involved us basically doing a real-world life project, sort of a capstone type of project. And that gave us a lot of hands-on training experience as well. So I think that, you know, when it comes to experience in the financial industry, I think I've got what you need.
Okay. Why should I hire you?
3 words: dedication, loyalty, and doggedness. I'm dedicated and I'm loyal. And I mean, I've been at the same bank for 10 years, and I don't really want to leave the bank. The bank's kind of leaving me. I want to work for a company that I'm going to be at for a long period of time. Dedication to the job itself and to the bank. My biggest thing is making sure that the bank doesn't lose money, making sure that the bank is on top of its game, and making sure that I'm dedicated and that I'm making sure that the bank reaches those goals that it has set for itself. And as far as the doggedness goes, I do not stop until I get what I need to be done. I will do whatever it takes to get the job done, and I think that I can be a great asset to your company.
All right. So do you have any questions for me?
Actually, yeah, I do. What's an average day like around here?
Well, I'd have to say the average day is pretty much probably what you deal with most of the time anyways, as it is. It's pretty fast-paced.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff going on with the bank individually. The job that you applied for is the regional director for the security and fraud department. So you'd be pretty much dealing with probably about, I think, 15 different banks.
Okay.
And you'd be handling each one of their fraud departments.
Oh, wonderful.
You'd have 5 or 6 people underneath you who are going to be dealing with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to be having a lot of work to do, but I'd say for the most part, judging by what I've seen, you can probably handle it.
Oh, okay. And what's the culture like here?
We have a very diverse culture. We have a lot of different areas. We have one out in Roanoke, so we have very much a country area, and we also have quite a few branches here in DC, so we have quite a diverse culture. We have quite a few employees from different places in the world.
Okay.
I would say we probably have about 18 to 19 countries represented inside the bank. So.
Wonderful, wonderful. I like diversity. It's a wonderful thing. And then just one more question is, I guess, what kind of qualities are you looking for in the position?
I think most we're looking for is dedication. We need somebody who's going to stay on here for a while. The gentleman who retired is retiring from this position, so we've had him on for about 15 years now.
Mm.
So he worked into that position and has done quite well at it. We're looking for somebody who can provide stability to that job again. Also the dedication that I mentioned, and then the fact of being able to handle the job and not be micromanaged by the upper management of the bank.
Sounds wonderful.
Thank you much, Erica. I appreciate it.
Thank
We'll get
you.
in contact with you.
Thank you.